The end of an era, how the dollar's empire began and why it's fading. One. The handshake at Bretton Woods. It's July 1944. The world is still burning. Delegates from 44 nations gather inside the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Their mission: rebuild a shattered world economy. Britain, the financial titan of 2 centuries, is broke. Its war debt is suffocating. Across the hall, the Americans sit tall, flush with gold and industrial might. By the time the pens touch paper, the torch has been passed. The British pound, the global reserve for over 200 years, cedes its throne to the US dollar. But this isn't just a policy shift. It's the continuation of a 500-year cycle, a repeating pattern of rise, dominance, overreach, and decline. And the dollar, now 81 years into its rule, is entering familiar territory. So what does that actually mean? It means the story of the dollar isn't unique, it's the next verse in an old song. Footnote. This section sets the stage for the Bretton Woods Agreement as both a geopolitical turning point and part of a repeating global currency cycle. 2. Portugal, the Age of Discovery. In the 15th century, Portugal reshaped the world. Its navigators charted new routes around Africa, bypassing Ottoman choke points and unlocking trade with Asia. Lisbon became the hub of global commerce, and the Portuguese real the first true reserve currency. But success led to overreach. The empire stretched across continents, and maintaining far-flung outposts strained the treasury. Political instability finished the job. After just 80 years, Portugal's reign ended, its currency absorbed by Spain's rising empire. So what does that actually mean? It means innovation creates power, but empire always consumes it. Footnote. Portugal's global expansion set the template for modern reserve currencies. Innovation breeds dominance, but overextension brings decline. 3. Spain, the Silver Flood. Spain's empire was built on a mountain, Potosi, high in the Bolivian Andes, where half the world's silver was mined. For a century, Spanish pieces of 8 became the global currency of trade, trusted from China to the Americas. But the river of silver turned toxic. Easy money fueled reckless spending, military conquest, and inflation so severe that prices quadrupled. Spain defaulted 4 times in 1 generation. When the silver veins ran dry, the empire crumbled. So what does that actually mean? It means when money loses anchor, empires lose gravity. Footnote. Spain's dominance shows how resource windfalls breed inflation and complacency, an early warning for today's debt-driven economies. 4. The Dutch Golden Age. The Dutch replaced silver with systems. They invented modern finance, stock exchanges, joint stock companies, marine insurance. The guilder became the world's most trusted currency, backed by trade and disciplined banking. But prosperity invited conflict. Wars with Britain bankrupted the Republic. The Dutch East India Company, once the crown jewel of capitalism, collapsed under its own corruption and debt. The pattern repeated, roughly 80 years of dominance, then decline. So what does that actually mean? It means even innovation can't outrun debt forever. Footnote. The Dutch era marks the birth of financial capitalism, and the first proof that global dominance has a natural half-life. 5. Britain, the empire of credit. The British pound became the backbone of global trade from the 1700s through 2 world wars. London was the heart of world finance, insurance, and commodities. The gold standard made the pound as good as gold itself. But 2 world wars shattered that illusion. Britain's debt soared to 270% of GDP by 1945. The empire that once ruled a quarter of the planet was financially hollowed out. The crown passed quietly across the Atlantic, to Washington. So what does that actually mean? It means every empire wins wars it cannot afford. Footnote. Britain's financial exhaustion after 2 global wars led to the dollar's ascension, cemented by the Bretton Woods Agreement. 6. The dollar's rise and reinvention. Under Bretton Woods, the dollar was tied to gold at $35 an ounce. Every other currency tied itself to the dollar. America's industrial strength and gold reserves made it the unquestioned anchor of global finance. Then came 1971. Nixon ended gold convertibility, the dollar went fiat. But instead of collapsing, it evolved. In 1975, the petrodollar was born. OPEC nations agreed to sell oil only in dollars. Global demand for oil became global demand for USD. The dollar detached from gold, but found a new tether in energy. So what does that actually mean? It means the dollar's power is psychological as much as structural. It survives not on gold, but on belief. Footnote. The transition from gold to oil-backed trade established the dollar's dominance through artificial global demand. 7. The cracks in the foundation. At its peak, 70% of global reserves were held in dollars. Today, it's under 58%. Foreign demand for U.S. treasuries is waning, down from 50% in 2008 to just 30% in 2025. Meanwhile, America's debt has reached 124% of GDP, echoing the late-stage debts of Britain and Spain before their declines. The new challenge is multipolar. BRICS nations are building digital settlement systems to bypass the dollar entirely. The petrodollar is weakening. Global trade is fragmenting. The same symptoms that once marked imperial decline are appearing again, just in modern dress. So what does that actually mean? It means the dollar's supremacy isn't ending overnight, but the countdown has begun. Footnote. This section compares modern U.S. economic indicators with historical precedents, suggesting a late-stage reserve currency cycle. 8. The inevitable transition. History's rhythm is steady. Every reserve currency lasts roughly 95 years. The dollar, born at Bretton Woods in 1944, turns 81 this year. The symptoms, rising debt, waning trust, military overextension, are all in place. The only unknown is the pace. Will America's decline resemble Britain's graceful descent or the Dutch Republic's sudden fall? Will power consolidate under one successor, or fracture into many? No one knows. But one thing is certain, no empire outlasts its currency. So what does that actually mean? It means the torch is already being passed, you just haven't seen who's holding it yet. Footnote. This section concludes that reserve currency transitions are inevitable, cyclical, and already in motion, with the dollar nearing the end of its historical lifespan.